racing fans, welcome back to Rise and Drive Team Radio, the ultimate IndyCar podcast. I'm Kaz, I'm here with Harvey, and today we're going over the second half of the 2025 IndyCar season, talking about our favorite moments and reactions and big takeaways from this season. If you listened in last week, we started with St. Petersburg and went all the way to our home race at Road America. So this week we'll be picking up at Mid-Ohio.
Yes, Mid-Ohio. It was an exciting race right from the drop of the green flag. Well, actually, it was even exciting during qualifying. There was some shenanigans going on and some hard feelings before the race, which, kind of played out during the race. It was super fun.
Yeah, right from that first incident with Newgarden, you already had me yelling at the TV. You knew that. That was right. I feel like, and we'll get to this more once we start talking about other races in the second half. I feel like this was the rock bottom pit for Penske, where they really hit their lowest point of the season. At this point, I really started to feel like things just were never going to come together for them.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. I mean, Road America was shocking at how bad they did because that's a track they usually do really well at. And then to have that continue through Mid-Ohio, it's like, wait a minute, are they ever going to get it together? But, what Mid-Ohio provided us with was a really great race between Dixon, Palou, and Lundgaard, who ended up first, second, and third. Alex was on the pole, looked like he was going to run away with the thing, and then made that just really rare mistake at the end of the race where he went off, was good enough to save it and save second place, but let Dixon through. It was kind of shocking.
Yeah, so uncharacteristic for Alex to make that kind of mistake, especially toward the end of a race, because I really feel like he's a closer. How many
Yeah.
times this season has he come up in the last quarter of a race to give us, his final push toward the end? He's really demonstrated that he can do that and keep his mind right throughout the whole thing. So surprising to see him make a mistake in that situation, but Dixon's a pro.
Yeah.
You make that kind of mistake in front of a guy like Scott Dixon and you're losing that position. And I read a quote from Dixon earlier today from after that race, wherein he said actually when he saw the car coming back onto the track, he was actually really excited that he still wanted the race.
Right.
And I love that about him.
Yeah, he's a racer. He wants to have somebody chasing him down. Can I keep him behind me? What do I have to do as a racer to win this race?
Well, and from a team perspective too, as a Chip Ganassi driver, you've got to be happy to know that you're going to take your second Chip Ganassi 1-2 of the season, not their last, but their
Right.
second. All around great day for that team and a good day for us too as fans watching.
No, I agree. And it was interesting too to see the two strategies of Dixon and Palou, where Dixon was really on a save strategy and Palou was on a
Yep.
push strategy. And maybe that's what caused his error toward the end is he was on a push strategy and it just, he pushed it a little too hard one time.
The mental energy that's got to take out of you. Even, I mean, I know a save strategy is difficult too. There are other things to be worried and stressed about, but having never been in that position, I have to imagine when I'm pushing for as much speed as I can possibly get, where I'm trying to essentially drive 20 seconds faster than somebody else over the course of the whole race, because that's what it is. He squeezed in an extra pit stop. That has to just take an incredible physical toll on you. All that adrenaline running through you, going so fast. It must be so stressful toward the end of the race. And you're right, that really may have played in. But you're also right that one of my favorite things in racing is two different, whether it's tire strategies or timing strategies, whatever it is. I love when you get two really well executed versions that converge at the end like that. It's so fun to, who got it right. And this time it was Scott Dixon.
Yeah, and I think the other thing in this race, besides that really great race down to the finish, was we got a little glimpse of some bad boy action that continued a little bit throughout the year when Ferrucci and Daly had their little tete-a-tete on that. That was more than aggressive racing at that point in the race.
Yeah, that's not. I love a good aggressive wheel to wheel moment, obviously, but it needs to be clean and it needs to be proper. Ferrucci is a guy who's kind of known for that kind of thing from time to time. Daly, I think, tends to have maybe a slightly cleaner reputation, but he's also really known for being quite aggressive
Yeah.
in the
Well,
way he drives,
as we
particularly
saw
on
in
ovals.
Milwaukee,
Oh my
right?
God.
But yeah, I mean, but that was clearly Ferrucci going over the line at a
Yeah.
moment when he didn't have to, but it certainly created some more hard feelings through that race. So, and the other thing about Mid Ohio is that's Ray Hall's kind of home race. You know,
Hmm.
they're an Ohio-based team. This is where you expect them to at least show up and show out. And to have Graham do as badly as he did in that race surprised
Yeah.
me.
And look, it's not just Graham. I mean, Graham did not have a great finish. Graham finished 24th. Graham
Yeah,
had worse than a not great finish, but his teammates didn't fare much better. Devlin DeFrancesco finished at 20th, and Louis Foster managed to crack the top 15. He finished 14th. I know he's a rookie. We kind of do need to give Louis Foster a few
right.
moments where he can breathe a little bit, but your home track, you got to put one of your drivers in the top 10, particularly if you're a team that's that well funded. You know,
Right. I mean,
where's it going?
this is a team that should be competing with the Ganassis, should be competing with the Penske's. We'll
Meyer
do,
Shank, at least,
yeah,
you know?
exactly. And to see Meyer Shank and Ed Carpenter and AJ Foyt and all those teams stepping up
Hmm.
and um, RLL treading water is kind of surprising. I expected more from them.
It's interesting too, because I know they're a team that's I know that there's a lot of history connecting them to this sport. This is not an auto manufacturer who has a leg in the race for advertising. This is a group of people who have passion and history for specifically IndyCar racing.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's
David
it's a little
Letterman grew
mystifying.
up in Indianapolis. That's why he's involved in this.
That's why he
Bobby,
bought in.
yeah, Bobby Rahal is one of the legendary drivers, an Indy 500 winner, and so many
Hmm.
other, champion, and just a super great guy. I've met him a few times and really enjoyed every chance I got to hang out with him. And um, it's just you want to see more from that team based on their
Yeah.
history. So, and being their home track, it just surprised me they didn't show up. We talked to them before the race, and they acknowledged their issues, but at the same time seemed hopeful.
Yeah.
This really must have hurt as a team.
Yeah. I think you're really right about that. That's one of those ego blow moments. It's going to
Yep,
affect how you move forward.
yep. So then we moved from Mid Ohio to Iowa,
Nice doubleheader weekend.
a doubleheader weekend that very few people showed up to watch.
And that's why we don't race in Iowa next year.
Yeah, exactly. The first race was a solid oval race. We had uh, Newgarden on the pole. It felt like, oh, hey, Penske, there you are. Welcome. And, award winning Newgarden second, Power third. McLaughlin finished fourth. So you had Penske 2 and 4 in that race. Um,
That's why I said Mid Ohio was the low point, right? Because I know that Penske didn't come back and do great in every race after, but this was the
right.
first like spark.
I
This was the
mean,
first little
Newgarden
glimmer.
led 232 of the 275 laps or
Mhm.
whatever it is.
Could have won the race. Didn't,
Yeah,
but from where he was, a second place finish is really, really quite spectacular.
yeah, exactly. And it was a really fun oval race, great action on the track, a lot of cars finished, right? 22 of the 27 cars finished the race. So that
For
was
an oval, that's pretty
yeah, for a
solid.
short oval, this is a 8/10 of a mile track. So it's the shortest track on the circuit. Um, and it produces some pretty interesting racing with that banking, but um, it's gone, and so
Yeah.
we're not going to see Iowa again, even though they had two good races. They had the Saturday race that again Award won, and then the Sunday race that Alex won his second oval win.
His first short oval win.
Right, exactly. And all of a sudden, people aren't talking about Alex not being able to drive ovals, right? I
Can't
mean,
say that anymore. He's proven that
he's
wrong.
exactly. He got the pole position in that race. He led 194 laps during that race. So
Ugh.
it really, you know, when he had been winning championships the previous years because of his performance on road courses,
Mhm.
but now to see him obviously winning Indy, winning here. He showed really well again in Milwaukee. If it hadn't have been for that weird strategy at the end that was precipitated by the precipitation, um, he would have won that race. So, he doesn't have the perceived weaknesses anymore.
No, and at the beginning of the season, we had a lot of talk about his experience on ovals and how this would go for him. And nobody's worried that he can't win a championship without it. Obviously, he had done it multiple times before. But there has to be a little bit of fear in the heart of everybody else, right? Now you can't go toe to toe with Alex by not being great at road courses, but specializing on ovals.
Yeah,
That's not something you can do. You
right.
need to be well rounded if you want to stand a chance of running up against this guy. Um, we're talking about 2025 or 2025, but 2026 is going to be cool.
Yeah, exactly. And this is another race where another driver surprised me, and that was Lundgaard, who
Okay.
started 22nd and finished sixth.
Yeah.
So again, we're talking about a road course guy for McLaren who managed to figure out how to drive an oval on this weekend. And um, that was a really great result for him and starts to bring him into the conversation as a true number two driver for
Lundgaard's a guy I said on our last when we looked at the first half of the 2025 season that Christian Lundgaard is somebody who I should have been paying attention to earlier than I was. And I think this is where we all started. I think this was but if you watching those races earlier on in the season, he had so many great moments where you could see, just just the notion that he could get to this level.
well,
Um,
yeah.
and it was really fun to watch him put it together on an oval this way.
Yeah, and so, this is a guy who had 10 top tens,
Hmm.
seven top fives.
Mm.
So, that's a seriously good season for a guy who wasn't, yeah, I mean, he's driving for McLaren now. It's a great team, should be doing well, but that's Pato's team.
It's if you ask me to talk to you about McLaren's identity as an IndyCar team before the 2025 season, prior to the 2025 season, I would have called it a one driver team.
Right.
I know they have multiple cars and they invest in young talent and that's great. But I didn't ever really think of them as a team that would have more than one theoretical contender at this point on his first year with the team, by the way. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Tortilla
ah,
chip dust.
we'll have to do that part again.
Ah, that's too bad.
Yeah, you were on a roll.
I was on a roll. Okay, I'm gonna start back at sort of the half beginning of this.
Yep.
Yeah, and McLaren is a team that if you would ask me to kind of characterize them prior to the 2025 season, I would have called them a one driver team. I know they put forth other cars, but it's been all about Pato for them. And in his by the way, his first season with the team.
Right.
Christian Lundgaard managed to finish the Drivers' Championship in fifth, could have had fourth, could have had third. That came down to the last race of the season.
Right.
So watching McLaren evolve into this more well-rounded team is another thing coming out of 2025 that is really making me excited for next year. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the theme of this podcast. I'm excited for next year.
Well, the other thing about the Milwaukee, or sorry, the other thing about the Iowa weekend is how starkly different the two races were in terms
Hmm.
of how they finished. You know, the first race you had Award Newgarden Power, and the second race you had Pillow, Dixon, and Armstrong
Yeah.
on the podium. So completely different, you know, podium.
Different
So
drivers, different teams, different engines.
yeah. So that was interesting, and what it means to shows me is that that's a really fair track, right?
Yeah.
It rewards good driving. It rewards luck a little bit, right?
Hmm.
Because certainly Newgarden was a victim of, or no, McLaughlin was a victim of some bad luck on that second race. It really cost him. So,
I think it also demonstrates to me a little bit about the strength of the grid as a whole.
yeah,
The fact that there's not one repeat driver in the top three for each race, that's pretty cool. We had six different podium standards or standers on two races on the same track. That just goes to show you that really there are a whole lot of people in this series who are capable of bringing a win home.
right. And that's the other thing where, you know, because you're running two engine manufacturers,
Mhm.
one chassis, it it does open it up to more wheel to wheel, more options of people who can win. So it's pretty exciting, and I think we're going to see more of that next year.
Yeah, I think so too.
So then we
We'll
go
talk.
from the short oval to Toronto, and another track we won't see next year because they're moving out to the suburb, whatever that.
I've already forgotten the name of the suburb. I'll know it by next
We're
season, I
horrible,
promise you
aren't we
guys.
horrible? Yeah,
I've never been to Toronto. I'm not going to memorize suburb names. It's just
yeah.
not going to happen.
So they ran. So we go to Toronto. Herta gets a pole.
Can't capitalize though.
Another, we finally hear from Colton, which is great. And then, but Award, VK, and Simpson
Kevin Simpson.
end up on the podium on that race. That was, you know, pretty spectacular to see that happen. And, it wasn't a race where anyone dominated. I mean, Pato won that race and only led 20 laps.
Yeah.
So there were six lead changes, I think, throughout the race, but enough that enough action on the track. It was pretty interesting. And that was a race where Penske, again, that pit stop error where they didn't get the wheel nut on right.
Yeah, that one was really, really hard to watch. And I did see a live video of McLaughlin reacting to that. Him watching it for the first time, and you can just kind of see it in his eyes. The like, man, well, that's not right. Well, we
Yeah,
sure did that wrong. That race was, I think, one of my favorite podiums of the season. We've talked about early on in the Pato's first nine races were pretty quiet. We were all
right.
waiting for him to do what we know he's capable of. Obviously, he had won a race in Iowa the week prior, but we're kind of waiting to see what's going on with Pato. Is he really going to step up and maybe kind of try and make a late season push? So great to see him on the top step. But then VK and Simpson. Oh, I love unlikely drivers picking up podiums early in their career. I think those are two drivers to keep our eye on.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kiffin Simpson really showed late in the year, and
Chip Ganassi
Renus.
agrees.
Yeah, and Renus. you know, he's going to be an important part of that team next year.
Look, Renus is really, really cool to me because, as I said last week, he really frequently improves on his qualifying position. He's not going to be the guy who takes a car up from 26 to the top 10,
Right.
but if he can start it in the top 10, he can usually finish there. And he's not in an elite car right now, or wasn't last year. So let's see what happens with Renus VK. I'm really excited, and I also, just as a personal side note, he's really funny. And
Hmm.
I love the Dutch sense of humor. So give me more opportunities to interview Renus VK. Give me more opportunities to listen to him. I think he's a cool driver, and I think he's, I don't know. I got my eye on him a little bit.
Yeah. And then we go from Toronto to Monterey, where we're going to end the
Mm,
season next year. And, this is where Alex essentially wrapped it up,
yeah.
right? I mean,
I
it,
think it is mathematically also the race he wrapped it up. I might be wrong about that.
no, we had to wait till Portland for
Oh,
him
you're
to
right. We
wrap.
did. You're right.
Yeah,
We did. Sorry. Yep.
but
I got
that's all
ahead of
right.
myself.
Yeah, but in Monterey where Alex led from pole and won the race, and then with Lundgaard finishing second and Herta showing up third. So good for you, Colton. He had a good race. This is a race where Pato surprised me because he seemed passive all race. And I don't know whether his car wasn't set up right or what, but he just, even from the start, where this is like, you got to win this or it's over kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I never got the sense that it was, you know, do or die for him during this race.
Most of his less than stellar finishes all season were when something happened to knock him down, especially when you start talking about the back half of the season when he really seemed to have found something. It was weird to see him just kind of hanging out down there. I agree. And I don't want to diagnose it. I don't know why, but you're right. It didn't feel like he had urgency in the way he was driving. It didn't,
Yeah.
and he had a lot on the line there. This was in the middle of, and I was every week. I was like, this is so stupid that we're even talking about this, but this was the point when all IndyCar media was talking about, is it possible for Pato to maybe make a championship push and take the thing off of Alex at this point in the season? It was still possible, but not with performances like that, man.
No. And, he maybe he didn't have the car that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he couldn't get the setup right.
Yeah.
Who knows? It wasn't the race I was expecting from him. And
Yeah.
there was another huge disappointment
Oh my
at
God.
Monterey, right?
Maybe one of, I don't know. It was a really challenging moment in my racing fandom when that beautiful Sirius XM Grateful Dead car driven by Felix Rosenquist
With
did not.
the shirt you're wearing right now.
Yeah, those joining us on YouTube can see that an affiliate of ours from Portland managed to snag this amazing shirt for me the next race when they drove the car again, so that people would have time to see it on TV. But yeah, Rosenquist had an incident early on in the race, wound up 2 laps behind, and I only got to see that absolutely stunning livery in the California sunshine one time when he came in for a pit stop at the same time as Alex, 2 laps behind.
Right.
But even at the same time, they went into the entry. So I got to see the car as we were tracking Alex.
So
And
you loved Kiffin Simpson in Toronto. You hated him in Monterey for
I,
putting his car out.
I said after that race that I was going to get over it, and I now have. But
Okay.
at the time, I was really anti-Given. Just maybe for like 3, 4 days, I was really, really ticked. By the time he got back into a car, I was all good. I have a short memory, but man, what
We
a
wanted to see that car on the track
and
because
Felix looked so good too. He
yep.
was driving so well in qualifiers, so you really kind of had the hope that, I don't
Yeah,
know, something magic was going to happen for the Grateful Dead in California on this beautiful sunny day.
there you go. Yeah, this was one of those races too that it was an interesting race. There was some exciting action kind of back in the pack, but we only had two lead changes. But that lead change was kind of interesting because that's when Siegel led 11 laps, right?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
we saw this kid come up, and I don't think anyone was expecting him to hold the lead as long as he did. And he really raced well.
Yeah.
So I think he showed the folks at McLaren a lot at that point, and the rest of the drivers. So
When I'm looking at young drivers like that, at people who are just starting their careers, especially people who are just starting their careers, and maybe more at like marquee teams, so this is going to apply to Nolan Siegel, this is going to apply to Kiffin Simpson, the younger people at these big teams. I don't need them to. I don't need them to be on the podium a bunch. I don't need them to win races. I, of course, want them to be consistent in their, you know, top half of the pack placements. But really, what I'm looking for is just little sparkling moments where they kind of show me a little bit of who they are and what they plan to do as they get more comfortable. I mean, imagine being a race car driver, stepping into a McLaren for the first time, a massive improvement from your prior team. And then you look to the side, and who's starting next to you? It's Will Power, who's been driving for Team Penske for 17 years.
right,
Imagine the mental
almost
pressure that
before
puts on
you
you.
were born.
Yeah, Scott Dixon's career of 23 years is longer than Kiffin Simpson's life. Kiffin Simpson is 21.
Right,
His teammate has been driving longer than he's been alive. So it's really, I don't need them to keep up in that way. I don't
right.
need them to show me, hey, I'm the next Scott Dixon. But I do want to watch you race against him for a few laps and just see how you do. Nolan took that opportunity to impress me big time.
Yep,
That was a really great moment, especially at this point. 4 races left. You kind of start to get a little nostalgic.
yep.
Having something to look forward to really helps in those moments.
Well, then we go to Portland, another really nice road course. And
Beautiful.
this one was a lot of fun because, again, Pato goes on pole. So it's not over,
Mm,
but it is.
mm,
But he gets the
mm.
pole. So everyone's like, hey, and then he has that mechanical issue. And so the race comes down to, Power, Lundgaard, and Palou on the
Yep.
podium. And Will, got the strategy right again. We talked to him before the race, right? Our guy Jeff got an opportunity to interview um, Will before the race, and he mentioned that tire strategy was going to be a big issue again this year, and they got it right.
I thought it was so funny. Both before Jeff talked to Will and after he talked to Will, he told us Will's going to win this race.
Yeah,
Um, I'm so happy to see him be right about that. But he also, his reasoning was exactly correct. Will understands something about the way tires work on this track in a way that maybe not everybody else does. He knows how to nurse them properly, and he knows how to set the right strategy for the situation. 2 years in a row, a guy pulled off a strategic win on the same track.
right. So, you know,
Have fun, Andretti.
yeah, exactly.
You have a
Learn.
gift.
Yeah, everyone has seen how to do this now. They should all be looking at that strategy for next year.
Yeah.
But, then they've got to avoid the bonehead mistakes like Ferrucci made on that first lap where he just spun coming out of turn 12. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa, that was. But the other good story in that race was a team we trashed earlier, and that's Graham Rahal, who went from 22nd to fourth and had a really solid finish there.
Graham is a capable driver. I hate to trash Rahal Letterman. I don't want to.
Right,
But sometimes if if you can show me that more, I won't have to say these things.
right. Exactly. Do it more than twice a year
Yeah.
because he did it at the Indy road course and he had a solid finish here. But and then we had another incident involving Connor Daly.
Oh yeah, this was the Daily Rasmussen incident.
Yeah.
This was pretty gnarly on both sides.
Yeah, it was clear for 2 laps that something bad was going to happen because, they that early incident, they got into each other.
Hmm.
All of a sudden, now they're driving like they're driving, NASCAR cars, not Indy cars.
They felt much more like they were driving against each other
Right.
than like they're trying to have their best race. And definitely at least some of the moves that they made in that whole sequence, which you're right, was a good 2 laps, were very retaliatory.
Right.
Um, when the stewards announced no penalty, I took a long bit to think about that.
Yeah.
I
And
think it was right though. You
I mean,
can't,
because
who was
who,
worse,
yeah,
you
someone
can't.
made the first and it went back and forth and back and forth. But at the same time, I'm guessing after the race, both drivers got a talking to.
Oh, sure. Uh, If not from IndyCar, at least from your team.
Right. I mean,
You put your personal issue with this other driver, whether it's a long-term issue or something that just came up in this one moment, you put
right.
that over your entire race. You made a decision that ended the race for you.
Right.
It's and they're not rookies.
No.
You don't have as much of an excuse when you've been driving as long as you have.
Right. I mean, and at that point, I think it was only about a third of the way through the race. So
Hmm.
plenty of race left to
Hmm.
finish and finish well.
Yeah.
You lost a couple of positions. It
Let
happens.
someone get away from you. Try and undercut him. See what you could, there are plenty of other opportunities to make passes. You're right. It wasn't the last 5 laps where you just need that position.
Yeah.
Ugh,
And then there was
shame.
that battle down the last couple of laps between Lundgaard and Below that was spectacular racing. They went wheel
Yeah.
to wheel, passed each other a couple of times. It was really exciting stuff. I mean, Will ran away with it a little bit, but to have those two going at it, knowing what was at stake for Alex, right?
Yeah.
If all he has to do is finish that race, and if
And here's the championship.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that was interesting.
Yeah. And a lot of times we saw Lundgaard step up after Pato was no longer in the race for some reason.
Right,
There are a number of races this season that I expected a McLaren on the podium, and I was correct, but I got the wrong one. This was another example of I don't know how much that goes into play in his brain, and maybe it's not at all, but this is the opportunity for me to show the team that I can be a number one driver too.
right.
Don't give it all to Pato because I can be just
I'm
as good.
coming. I'm coming. Yeah. He's
It's
he's a
cool.
seriously good race driver and he's gonna win a race here, you know.
Oh, no doubt that that's coming soon. I remember we talked to him. I actually think it was after the Portland race. I think it was before Milwaukee that we got to talk to Christian Lundgaard, and he's a cerebral guy. He knows it's coming, and he's really happy with what he did this season. But he's also really looking to improve. I'm excited for 2026.
I sense a theme. So let's talk about Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Another race I got to go to this year, which was great to be there,
Hmm.
have the press credentials, talk to the folks after qualifying, really get a sense of, how they felt about the track. A track they're going to drive twice next year.
Yes. Another
Um,
race we call home. We really love the Milwaukee Mile.
yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if that provides two different races the same way Iowa did,
Yeah.
because it's such an interesting track to have an oval like that where you have three lines that drivers can drive. I mean, um, that's what Rasmussen proved in that race is you can run the high line on that track
Yeah.
on
Uh,
the ragged edge, clearly.
you can turn right a whole lot on this oval.
Yeah, yeah,
Pretty
exactly.
unusual. Yeah, I remember watching on TV just really uh, and I know that it was after Portland that we talked to Christian Lundgaard because I remember him specifically saying about the Milwaukee race, this is an oval that gives the European drivers who are raised without ovals a little bit more comfort because without that high banking, it really just does feel like a left turn on a standard road course.
Yep.
And watching it on TV, it sure does. So two races there with a field that I like that. Everybody specializes in different things.
Yeah.
Everybody's good at different things. People have background in different things. An oval that requires a little bit of a different skill set is cool. Something that
Y-
combines two skill sets.
No, I agree. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun. It was the beautiful chaos that
Hmm.
David Malukas promised. And
Chaos for Malukas.
yeah, and it was chaos in general from a race standpoint, especially when that sprinkle came out. And, you know, and it was so interesting to see that Rasmussen and all those guys took those tires, and the guys up front were like, nope, track position's important. No, with 30 laps left, tires are important, more important than track position, I guess.
Alex had that race in hand.
Yeah.
And when it really came down to it, and honestly, outside of outside of Joseph Newgarden, the drivers who didn't come in for tires, very few of them actually lost any position to the
Right.
drivers who only Rasmussen was able to capitalize on that last minute strategy. I think partially it's just because he planned to do it, and partially it's because that's the kind of guy he is.
Right.
Everybody else kind of came in going, okay, there's 30 laps left, like last ditch effort, let's go. Rasmussen's race plan was crossing his fingers for this
Well, yeah, I
because
mean,
he was gonna unleash.
he said after the race, if we can put fresh tires on 20 laps with
Hmm.
20 laps or more to go, we're going
Yep.
to do it. And they
And it
did
was
it with
lap 30.
30, right, when they came in, and he
Good
passed
lap.
them by lap, you know, 15 or something
Yeah,
like that. I want to say 14, I think it was.
it didn't even take the full 30 laps. But
Yeah.
I mean, he was driving like that all race though.
And then after he passed him and got the lead, a couple of crazy passes where you're like, oh my God, he
Yeah.
almost crashed twice after
Yeah.
he got the lead.
He's
And
like
he didn't have to.
he's like cooking the high line through back markers. I remember screaming at the television at this point, but then I heard him speak after the race,
Right.
and that kind of got me a little bit because I'm sitting here at home comfortable thinking, what are you doing, man? You obviously are like you have it, cool it, stop.
Right.
Um, but then he said, look, I had Alex Pillow in my rearview mirror, and I didn't know if he had tires left. Maybe he did. He's been
Right.
great at saving his tires, and I felt mine maybe starting to go a little bit. So I'm going to put as many cars as I possibly can in between me and that guy so that I don't have to see that red and orange in my rearview mirror and freak me out for the rest of the drive.
Yeah.
I can't disagree with that.
No, I agree. That one move, though, where he almost went into the wall, maybe
I th
a little bit aggressive.
I thought he was going to lose it. I did. I'm not saying I think he did it right. I'm saying I understand where it was coming from.
So then we finish in Nashville with a great race.
Yeah.
Again,
Yep.
a spectacular race. They're going to keep Nashville on the calendar. They're moving it earlier in the season, which is fine.
And they're
It's,
making it a night race. So they're still
yeah,
highlighting it. It's still a marquee event. It's just mid-season.
yeah. But that race gave us everything, in terms of, um, again, Pato taking the pole, running really strong until he had that tire cut down. Watching Newgarden and McLaughlin battle, both of them saying, "Oh no, I could win this race."
Yeah.
They were confident they could get each other, and Alex just hanging in there and taking another second place finish. What a great race! And again, these ovals like that, there were 284 on track passes. There were 130 passes for top 10 positions in this race.
Jeez.
There were 74 passes for top 5 during this race. So there's action throughout the race. It was just great. There were 12 leaders and 20 lead changes in that
Yeah.
race. So I'm really glad they're keeping that on the calendar. Probably makes sense moving it up earlier. And then like we talked about in the season schedule show, moving a couple of the road courses later in the season to kind of keep the championship in play a little longer, I think.
Let's just keep it balanced. I like
Right.
that we're not seeing multiple, and it's not even about championship math, honestly. It's just about if I watched an oval last week, I might be in the mood for a street race now. And
Right.
hey, it's been a while since we've had a road course. And what about going back to an oval now? That's just a more fun viewing experience for me. I don't
Sure.
like watching all the ovals all together.
Yep. So it was a great 2025 season. I think some of the takeaways for me for the
Hmm.
25 season is yes, Alex dominated the championship, but he didn't dominate the races. I mean, he
Hmm.
won a lot of races, but it wasn't like he won all those races by 15 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever. Road America, he led the last four laps of the race, right?
Yep.
Even Indy, that was very much it was up in the air until the very end of the last segment of the race.
He won a lot of his, especially when you look at the first half of the season where he won so much. He won a lot of those races in the final stint,
Right,
hanging around, making smart decisions, be kind to your tires, save your push to pass. Hey, now we're at the end and I'm going to let it go. Um, and you can, and I say you have to look at the first half of the season because in the second half, Alex only won two races.
right,
He still ran up toward the front very frequently. It's just that that last minute thing didn't work out for him as often as it did in the first half.
right,
So I think you're right. Well, looking at this 2025 season points wise, it's really easy to say there's one obvious dominant driver. I don't know that that indicates anything about how it's going to continue.
right. I think we've got a wide open season coming up for 2026 from a championship standpoint. I
Hmm.
mean, I think what we had seven different winners in 25.
I believe it was seven. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's still, even that was pretty solid. So I think we've got you've got some teams who clearly stepped up. I think Penske is on the rise based on their second half of the season. I think McLaren is stronger because Lundgaard and Award are both capable of winning races now. I will, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Foyt now that Malukas is moved over to Penske,
Yeah.
and what does Malukas bring to Penske? Is he, I mean, he's taking over the number one seat, right? Power
It's
Fit was the leading point scorer for Penske this year. So, is he going to challenge Newgarden
leading
and McLaughlin for,
leading point scorer for Penske last year too. You
yeah,
can't forget that in 2024, Will Power was the guy actually challenging Alex Palou at the end of the season. The only one actually
right.
challenging Alex Palou at the end of the season. Yeah, this is not a
Yeah, this isn't,
this is you're not like
we're putting you in this seat and we kind of hope you get a few top tens. No, he's got to get in that seat and he has to compete now, right
yeah.
away, right from the beginning. So I'm
Will
really
Power's
interested.
first race at Team Penske, he sat pole.
Yeah. So it'll
You
be
better sit
really,
pole on your first race.
yeah, and what does Power bring to Andretti?
Mm,
So that's going to be good. There's
that's
there
what I'm really excited to see.
there are a lot of great storylines that I think we'll talk about in the weeks ahead. I think we need to break that down, some of
Hmm.
that, and
Yeah. Team by team, race by race.
yeah, and see what we can see, where we think this season's going to go. So,
You know what I'm really interested in after the 2025 season? Well, the drivers championship again mathematically dominated, but not necessarily on a race by race basis. What was dominant was Honda over Chevrolet.
oh yeah,
But Chevrolet made a big resurgence toward the end of the season. It took until Pato won the first Iowa race. So that is 10 races into the season for Chevrolet to win a race, for a
right,
Chevrolet powered car to win a race. the fact that they were able to get a couple more before the end of the season is great, but Honda was very, very dominant. We know this was the first full year with the hybrid engine.
Right.
I'm really curious to see if Chevrolet figured something out toward the second half of last year and we might be expecting to start to see improvements. That might also explain some of the issues that Penske had. Some of why Pato didn't show up on the podium early in the year very frequently,
Mm,
as much as we expected him to.
could. Yeah.
I'm
And
I'm curious.
I think there's some of that. I think there's also drivers learning how to drive the hybrid
Hmm.
because I spoke to some of the Honda engine engineers, the people at Honda Racing HRD, and they said, they talked to the drivers about how they should drive the cars, and a lot of the drivers were like, no, no, I know how to drive a car, and
Don't you tell me how to drive.
but guys like Alex, who maybe listened to the engineers and, looked at the data and understood where you
Hmm.
want to regen and where you want to deploy and all that stuff. So there was a big learning curve for some drivers. So we'll
That's
see. We'll see.
that's such a great point. I know what I know of Alex is that he's gracious and humble, and he's definitely, if anybody listened to the engineers, he's the one.
Yeah.
He's the
And
one guy who said, "Yes, please tell me how to drive this car."
yeah, so we'll see, for 2026 if more experience with the hybrid helps other drivers and if the Chevy folks have figured something out. So
Yeah.
cool. Well, this was fun.
It's
I
always fun to relive great memories, and
Yeah.
there wasn't really a bad one in the 2025 season. I mean,
No, there
I had
were a lot of great races. Every race had its own moments. There were some that maybe were, like Laguna without a lot of lead changes, but a lot of really good action.
mhm.
So that's IndyCar, you know. It's every race is unique. You never know what's going to happen.
And you can always find something great if you're looking for it. It's not hard.
True,
Not in this series.
especially with the talent you have up, up and down that grid. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in 2026. But we'll be back next week with another episode of Rides and Drives Team Radio. Until then, I'm Harvey, and I'm here with,
Kaz.
and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.